My name is Debbie Famey, and I'm the Vice President of FAAE, which stands for Florida Alliance of Arts Education. And you might wonder, well, what are you all about? What do you do? So we have a very, very dedicated board of directors and an executive director, and throughout the state, we try to support and ensure that there's quality music education going on in every school for every student, and it's taught by qualified teachers in a very comprehensive, sequential way. And the fact that you're here, I think that probably is going on in your school, so it means that we're having some success in that. In addition, we also work with Florida communities to make sure that there are great broad-based cultural happenings throughout the community that help everyone, every citizen, have a lifelong love and interest in the arts. So on behalf of the FAAE board, we all welcome you. And we have some of our board members who got up very early to be here and help out with that. So if you're on the FAAE board and serving as a volunteer for this event, would you wave at us so everybody could see who you are? Thank you, FAAE board. And we could not do this without the fabulous Full Sail, which is where you're at today, and it's a wonderful place. Hopefully a lot of you are going to tour it. And without their help and sponsorship and support, we couldn't be here today. And we have a couple people from Full Sail who we really want to thank for making this happen. And that's Joel Pickering and Holly Tharp. Could you wave, Joel and Holly, and let us thank you? And they brought in, you know, as hard as it is for middle and high school students to wake up early on a Saturday, I think it's harder for college students. And they brought in a slew of college student volunteers, the students who go here to Full Sail, who have been helping us out to get this organized. I'm not sure how many of them are in the room because they're running around doing everything else. But if you are one of our student volunteers, would you raise your hand so we can thank you? And I don't know if you're as excited as I am, but when I found out that somebody named Nate Howe, who I didn't know much about, was going to be our keynote speaker, I had to Google it, right? And I found out that he's not from around here, but he started right here in this school, and he's now way out in LA, so he's really functioning in a different time zone right now. He's 3 hours difference from us. And something that I found out, and I'm going to bring in somebody to really introduce him, but what really sparked my excitement was that this man goes all around the world, and we have him here today, but he goes all around the world speaking about the power of getting curious and owning your creativity. And that fascinated me. So with that, I would like to bring up Tracy Wu, who is a video productions manager here, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about our keynote. So Tracy, would you join us?
All right, is everyone awake? Yeah. Everyone have donuts and coffee and... You guys are too young to be drinking coffee. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Tracy Wu. I work here at Full Sail University in video production. That means every video that you see that represents Full Sail, except for student projects, come from my department. So hopefully you've seen some stuff. It's pretty cool. I've worked here at Full Sail for 10 years. For those of you who don't know about Full Sail University, first of all, welcome. Welcome to our campus. It's an honor to have you all here. Full Sail University has been here for over 25 years. We are an entertainment media and technology school. We have degrees in film production, in recording arts, entertainment business, anything that touches entertainment, we teach, and we're very, very passionate about it. I've been here for 10 years. I love every second of being here. But the more important thing is, I want to introduce you to this brilliantly talented human being. This guy, not only is he my friend, but he's a 2-time Emmy Award winner. Do you know how huge that is? I got to touch one of them once. It's very exciting. He's worked for wonderful brands such as HBO, Disney, Disney XD, Nickelodeon, CBS. I know what? Spike TV, GSN. You guys watch any of these? Yeah, that guy has basically influenced their brands and has been amazing. He has his own studio. He is the creative director of Nathaniel House Studios in Beverly Hills. Please put your hands together for the amazing and my friend, Nate Howe.
And I'm back for one more minute. I forgot to introduce you to somebody, and she is the executive director of FAAE, Florida Alliance of Arts Education, and works tirelessly to do all the great things FAAE does. And I want to be sure you know who she is. Her name is Julie A. Bear, and she's right up there. And I turn it over to Nate.
All right, guys. Thanks for coming out. All right. Let's see. Let me hook this up here. Sorry to whoever's laptop that is. Give me 1 second to get prepared. All right, well, thank you to FAAE and Full Sail for having us here, and all you guys for coming out. Today I'm just going to talk a little bit about my path to becoming a creative entrepreneur, and a little bit about how to kind of own your creativity and how to work with it. Creativity is a really personal thing, so there's no right or wrong way to kind of own it or do it or anything like that. So I'm just going to share some things that I've experienced throughout my career, and hopefully you guys get something out of it. I really became attracted to creativity and design when I was about 8 years old, specifically through film. I really, I just remember being like 7 or 8 years old, and I'd watch movies with my father and grandparents, and I didn't really know what I loved about it, but I really loved the cinematography. I loved the look of things. I loved the light, the color, the special effects. And I liked the way that when I'd watch movies, it would make me feel things. So I started to get this kind of idea that maybe I want to do something in my life with images and visuals, but I didn't really know what was possible. I was like an 8-year-old boy in rural Ohio. It wasn't like I had film sets all around me. None of my family worked in film. So I didn't really have any path to get there. And I wasn't exactly sure what was even possible. So I was, I guess in like 4th or 5th grade, I went to my art teacher and I told her that, hey, I'm like excited about film and creativity and you're the art teacher. So maybe I want to do something with this in my life. She told me there's really no good way to use creativity to make money and I need to focus on something more important. She told me that, it's basically a hobby, it's a side thing, but, the other stuff you're learning in school is what, really matters. So that was really frustrating to me because it was just this beginning spark idea that maybe I could do something with film or, and I was kind of shy about it. I wasn't sure if it would, even be possible. So I had this birth of a dream, and immediately that dream was met with resistance and doubt and fear from an authority figure, from my teacher. So actually, it's a common theme in creativity that when you have a new idea or when you have a hope or a secret wish or desire or dream, a lot of times resistance, doubt, and fear pops back up. And that actually repeats in a creative's lifetime a lot. When you start creating something new, you start to feel these feelings like, is it good enough? Am I on the right track? So we're going to talk a little bit more about that later and how to kind of get inspired and how to fight creative block and how to own your creativity. So, here I am, 8 years old, and I'm like, maybe I could do something with film. And the teacher is like, no, there's no path. You can't do that. And so I think this sums it up. To not live a life someone else defines for you takes courage. So as an 8-year-old boy, obviously, I'm very impressionable. I'm sitting there, and whatever the teacher or my parents tell me is that's the limit and that's the law. At 8 years old, it wasn't necessarily that I had courage that I'm going to be a film director no matter what you say, or I'm going to work in a creative business. It was really that I had the support of my father. And my father, I just want to thank him because I would never have anything in my career like I have if it wasn't for his support in that moment. So, I went and I told my father that, the school I went to, they didn't really believe in creativity. The next year, he pulled me out of it and sent me to a completely different school. And he sent me to a place that, was like 30 minutes away. My grandparents had to drive me, like the family helped out just because I was interested in one little thing. It would have been so easy for that dream to die right there. It would have been so easy for me to just give up. So honestly, I would not have any of this without my father. Above and beyond just that, he saw that I was interested in something, and he started getting interested in it. He started sharing with me. So, he went out and bought me a film camera for Christmas. And so, we would run around together and make little short movies. And it was just kind of quality time. Like, we were just kind of goofing around and playing. And it was never like, hey, how are you going to get a job doing this? Hey, what's the end goal here? What are you doing? It was just fun, and it was just kind of sharing with them. So in that moment where a dream could have died, instead my father told me that anything is possible. I could do anything in the world that I want with creativity. And he told me to dream bigger dreams. So I think that what he told me in that moment has stuck with me my entire life. And I always feel like checking your perception, checking what you believe is possible for your own life, and then kind of reimagining that and expanding it. And so my father, really kind of saved me in that type of moment. From there, I went to high school and I kept playing with animation. And, my love of film started to connect into this love of animation because in the computer, you can create anything. Anything is possible. So the freedom of that was absolutely unbelievable. From there, I came here to Full Sail, and I studied computer animation. And I got my first job in Charlotte, North Carolina, working at an animation studio there. And we did all the branding for the Carolina Panthers, their in-stadium graphics, and the Charlotte Bobcats, and some NASCAR projects. I got a phone call from a studio in Los Angeles that wanted me to come out and work on a Madonna music video. And it was like the dream phone call. It's like, oh my God, this is what I've been hoping to go to LA or some big city and work on a big thing. But they were only offering me 2 weeks of employment, and I had a full-time job in Charlotte, so it was very stressful. I ended up taking my 2-week vacation time, going out to LA, freelancing on this music video, started to lead other things. Finally, I got from Charlotte to LA, and I freelanced for about 9 years in Los Angeles, working on everything from the NBA Finals to I got to live in Italy for a while, working with Sky Sports. But along the way, I worked at 50, 60 different studios and creative companies. And I saw the way that a lot of people worked with creativity, and I had to work in many different environments. So all that experience kind of led me to the chapter I'm in now in life, where I've started my own company. We're in Beverly Hills, California, and it's been a real blessing. Here's my office. We're on Wilshire Boulevard, and if any of you guys are ever out that way, come say hi and come play with some virtual reality and see the animation. And the main work we do is kind of entertainment branding. So if you see a commercial on HBO promoting Game of Thrones, all the way to an ESPN 30 for 30 film poster. But it all starts, all of my work is really the visual identity and design of things. So when you're watching TV, what does it look like when we're promoting, Disney XD versus National Geographic Channel? And I think what I really love about my job and the industry that I work in is the amount of diversity in what I get to do. There's so many different projects that we work on, all with unique styles. And so that really kind of gets me fired up, because every month we're doing a different design, a different style, a different look. And I'm just so grateful to have that. Let me show you, let's see here. I'm going to show you a little bit more what we do. Oh, and I've been lucky enough to get on set and work. On the top there was with Alfonso Ribeiro on the set of America's Funniest Home Videos. We just rebranded that. Worked with Dave Navarro for Ink Master and Spike. So it's been fun. I've got to get into filming through this love of animation. Let me show you some of our reel here so you can get a little bit of a better sense of what we do. And then we'll start talking about some kind of creative ideas. So that's some of what we do. And thank you. But so I wanted to share just briefly that story with you guys of coming from rural Ohio, literally surrounded by cornfields, to having my own studio in Beverly Hills, California, and getting to work all over the world. And I share that because I want you guys to realize that literally anything is possible. You can do anything you want, and it doesn't matter if you want to work in television and film like I do, or if you're interested in music or dance or anything like that. The key is that you can literally achieve anything. And the statement that my art teacher told me way back when is more wrong today than ever. I mean, the world values creativity more than it ever has, and there's so many opportunities as you guys get older. So I think the key is really like not being shy about your dreams and really kind of like believing in them and keep evolving them and keep growing them. So in my career, we have to come up with a lot of different campaigns. We have to come up with the look and the style of things. Hey guys, come on in. And we have to always have new ideas. So staying inspired and getting inspired is key. So I want to talk a little bit about my process. I'm going to speak about this process of how I work with a creative brief and how I take on a new project. Now, it's specific to my world and what I do, but I think it can relate to any field of creativity or anything in your life. And so, let me share some of this with you. So the key is, if you're going to be a creative professional, specifically in my field, where and in any field where you're going to receive a paycheck one day to do something creative, then the act of being inspired or getting inspired, it can't be a fluke. Like, a lot of people speak about being inspired like it's lightning striking them. It's like, I don't know, one day I'm inspired, the next day I'm not. If you're a creative professional, you have to really own that, and you have to be able to kind of harness it at will. So I wanted to break down a little bit about how I harness inspiration when I need it and how I attack a new project. So the first step to me about kind of anything with creativity is listening. And it's more than just listening, it's active listening. It's like really paying attention to the words, but in between the words. Like, what is the deeper meaning? So if a client tells me they want a campaign to look a certain way, what other things might they care about? What are they really telling me? And so, if we talk about listening to the whispers, what does that mean? That sounds kind of funny, right? So listening to the whispers really is a way of saying, listen to the inner stirrings, your inner voice, right? So what are whispers? So your inner voice, true creativity comes from within. It's just somewhere inside of you, but what is it? It's kind of fuzzy. You can't really define it. So we could say, what are whispers? They're things you're curious about. They're things that you love, or something that you're passionate about, or a hope that you have, a dream you have, or something that inspires you, or something you want to do one day. Those are little whispers. They're just kind of little gut, inner voices telling you, just like when I was 8, hey, I like film. I like the way that looks. Maybe I could do something with the look of visual images one day. That was a whisper. So they're clues. They're small, quiet kind of ideas that aren't fully realized yet. And they're really easily missed if you don't pay attention to them or you're not aware of them. So I think one of the first things about being creative, and as some of you guys get older and as you keep kind of like figuring out what you want to do with your life and finding different things that get you fired up, it's important to kind of pay attention and listen to those kind of inner instincts about what you're fascinated by. Literally from like the smallest spark of an idea, the most beautiful thing can emerge. So the first step that I want to talk about is kind of paying attention to that and starting to become aware that you have this kind of innate kind of instinctual voice within you. So how can you hear that if you never turn down the noise? So a lot of times people, when they go to get inspired, they just kind of like, I don't know, it's a fluke, how do I do it? The first step is making time to hear the whispers, making time to kind of figure out what gets you curious, what you're excited about, what you love. So how could you hear that if you never turn down the noise? Like, in today's society, there's so many things that distract us, right? That we have like literally app notifications pinging us all day long. It's like Pokemon Go. I mean, how do you escape this? It's everywhere, right? And it's not like it's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's like, but when do you have time for an original thought? Like all this stuff is taking all of our free time. All right? I thought this page would get a good reaction. But, all right, so all that stuff's good. It's like, we live in exciting times. There's amazing technology, there's apps and everything. It's so exciting. But when do you have time for yourself, for your own dreams? When are you making time for an original thought to emerge? A lot of people these days are so caught up in their phones, online, in the app. Like, when do you ever have a quiet moment just for a subconscious idea to kind of emerge and pop up? The key as you start finding your creative voice, or as you start kind of working further in things that you're passionate about, is making almost like a sacred time. It doesn't have to be long, it doesn't have to be every day, but like, one day a week where you just kind of sit and you pay attention to your dreams. You pay attention to the things that you're interested in, and you get curious about other things. I think one of the things that really helped me, I've never had any job in my entire life other than an animator or a designer. And it was the first job I got when I was 19 years old. When I got out of here, I went to school here for 1 year, zipped out to Charlotte and got a job. And it was because I knew that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to do something with images, and how do I make them look a certain way, and how do I make people feel a certain way about it. And it was natural, it was organic. But I grew up in an era where I was like, in rural Ohio, sitting out on a farm without like all the apps and everything. I was just like, what do I want to do with my life? What am I interested in? So make time in this like crazy busy world we live in today, and all the things competing for your attention. Make time to kind of pay attention to that. So some of this stuff comes down to like, first of all, like, do you want to be a consumer or a creator? First of all, I was inspired by film as a consumer, right? We sit there and we consume films, we consume games and apps, and there's a lot of ways that we can just kind of interact in other people's creations and designs today. So I think there's nothing wrong with doing that. It can lead to inspiration, but then, ask yourself, like, what do you want to create one day? Like, one day, everybody could be out there playing your game or watching your film. So as you start to watch things and as you consume them, be aware of it and let it kind of inspire what you want to create one day. This is a virtual reality environment that we created, and at our studio you can put on a Vive headset and walk around this, and it's been pretty cool because most of our work's television, and this was a fun one because you can walk around there and shoot paint all around. So, all right, so when you start to get curious about something, like when a client gives me a brief, I listen to the client, I find one thread of inspiration, and then the next part is kind of what I call playing in the mystery. And this is the best part of design and creativity, in my opinion, is the unknown. It's also the source of potential stress. When somebody doesn't know what they want something to look like and they're trying to figure it out, and they go right for the kill, they try and figure it out, you have to play in the unknown. So let's talk about what that means a little bit. So when I have to come up with a new look or a new image or a new ad campaign, one of the first things that we do after we find kind of, the thing that inspires us about the brief is we play in the unknown. We're not saying like, all right, Disney XD called. They want a commercial to promote kicking it. Like, all right, well, let's go make the commercial. We don't go right for the kill. So it's the same thing. Like, it doesn't matter if you're interested in music, film, or dance. When you get that first spark, when you hear that whisper, that inspiration, when you get curious or you have your idea, it's not about just going and trying to make it. It's, playing in the mystery, finding a little bit more depth to it. So the key here is this is the time where I start making a lot of design frames, right? Like the top there was for Epic Mickey, the Wii game, to Sons of Anarchy. So when we're doing stuff like this, when Disney calls and they say, how do we promote Epic Mickey or FX? And they say, what should the commercial for Sons of Anarchy look like? We don't know yet, right? Nobody knows yet. We have to figure out something that inspires the network and inspires the viewer. So what we start doing is we start trying a lot of designs. So we'll jump in Photoshop or we'll open a pen and paper and we'll just start playing. And the key is we're not stressed out, even though we have a deadline. We're not stressed out about like, oh man, we have to figure this out. We're playing in it. We're getting curious. We're like exploring. Like that Jackie Robinson documentary that just aired on PBS. That frame that's a symbol, we were trying to find ways to kind of speak to the depth that this man had, not only in baseball, but in the world, right? And so we tried a lot of different looks and images about it. And so we're playing in the unknown. It's kind of lucid, free-flowing thinking. And the whole key is when you're creating, it's just like, it's playful. We're just like having fun. We're finding things, we're getting more curious, and you can't rush that phase. So as we're doing that, also protecting new ideas. You know, again, like when I was 8 years old, I had this idea, maybe I could work in film, maybe I can make images that are cool and have fun with this sort of thing. And new ideas, they're easy to stomp out. Like a new dream, you could extinguish it with one little, dab of fear into it or doubt. You know, it's like, but instead, like when you have a new idea or when you have some new dream pop up, it's like embrace the beauty of it. Imagine what you could do in your life, and don't let doubt and negativity take it over. Like you can literally achieve anything. So as we're kind of playing in the mystery, what we're really trying to do in a brief is illuminate the essence, right? So what does that mean? We're trying to find what is the core look, idea, what is the heart of this campaign that we're going to do. So if you're out there creating a film, if you're creating a play or a video game or anything, or even if you're just drawing, start asking yourself, what is the heart, what is the core idea of what I'm doing right now? What does that look like? What is my idea distilled down into one word? Or what is my idea distilled down into one color? Or a look, or a sound, or meaning? So when you start doing that, you find a solid foundation to build your campaign and your creativity on. So as you're kind of playing in the mystery, as you're finding this stuff, as you're finding the core essence, you can start asking what other supportive ideas and choices connect with the heart. So when you're playing a video game and there's a character and like he's wearing a certain style of like armor, right? That's not a random design choice. Like they don't just say like throw that on or make it the color blue just to be random. It's driven by a foundation of creativity. This character's backstory is X, Y, Z. As you're playing it, we want you to feel like he's a hero, so we're going to design things to look a certain way. So all the supportive ideas and choices for your creation start to strengthen. So as you're kind of doing this, really what you're doing is you're finding, like, so basically when I'm working, I'll say, all right, the heart of this idea is we need to really make people feel happy. So what other colors and choices and ideas connect into that? And what other words and meanings can I plug into a campaign, right? So with McDonald's, this was at South by Southwest, and you could jump in virtual reality, and all of a sudden you shrink down and you're inside of a Happy Meal box. And then you get to throw paint all over this world as butterflies start coming in. So we started to think about happy as creating and destroying. So in this world, you can throw paint, you can erase it, you can jump around. So we tried to make a frame to sell this to the executives of McDonald's that captured that. So we sent it to them. It was a rather expensive campaign to pull off with the virtual reality technology needed. And the client said, we don't want to spend that. So one of our creative partners in Texas flew out to the McDonald's office with a Vive headset, strapped them in, put them in virtual reality, and this old executive guy started laughing like a child, and we knew we had hit the right tone with it. So they bought it and they did it. So, as I'm working, let's map out some of what we're talking about, right? So listening to the whispers, what does that mean? It's a way of saying, like, what gets you curious, what's exciting to you, what are you passionate about, what are you interested in, paying attention to that, okay? So as you're paying attention to this, it's really about being playful. Like, you don't have to figure out what am I going to do exactly with my life yet. It's just about, like, having fun at this point. So I think as you're kind of getting into music, dance, film, whatever it may be, challenge your belief of what's possible. So this app that I did this with, this is actually called MindNode. And as I'm kind of working in my kind of creative process, this is actually an app I use a lot because I can quickly get in and I can list out ideas. So as I'm in working, one of the things that I really love to do is map out brainstorms. So if I have an idea for a new virtual reality experience or commercial, I may be thinking of 50 different ideas, right? Because it's really nonlinear creativity. So I need to be able to map them out. Here's an example of a really big project we're working on. And this is me mapping out all the ways I want the client to feel, all the ways that I want to present it, all the ways that, the types of animators I want to use, the reference we're going to have. So this is just a visualization of what we're thinking about in a campaign. So it's nonlinear, it's loose, it's flowing. We're not going to end up doing all these things, but you have to get them all out. You have to get these thoughts out. And then we kind of go through and we find what matters the most, what connects, and then we create our actionable game plan from that. So let me give you some real world examples of what this means. So, the Discovery Channel is a great client of ours. We work with them all the time. They own a network called Velocity, which is all things automotive. It's all about cars. So, Discovery Channel and Velocity sent us a creative brief. So they sent this out to like 5 studios in New York and LA. And so we got this as well. It said, create a collection of network IDs. So what is that? That's when you're watching TV and it says like ABC. That way you know you're watching ABC. So how do we create a network ID that is around the Velocity logo and around the type of shows we have? So when you're watching Velocity, their shows all actually revolve around 6 different themes under automotive. So building and restoring cars, car racing, treasure hunting, like finding classic cars and things like that, the Barrett-Jackson auction kind of formula for a show, instructional and DIY, how do you kind of work on the car and fix it yourself, and then consumer news and information. What's the latest technology in cars? The key is the network, they want people to feel, they want the viewers to realize that they love everything they love, about cars as much as the viewer does. So the central thing they're asking us for, how do we animate and bring their Velocity logo to life? So that's the brief we received, no extra clues, no extra help, and then we get a black and white logo like this. So how can we make a really cool ad campaign, get people fired up, and make sure it connects to all these different kind of rules of their brief? And then they say, all right, you have a week, figure it out. Here's very little money, and compete against 5 other amazing companies in the world. And if you win it, we'll give you the job. If not, it was great working with you. So we're sitting here staring at a black and white logo, and we have to say, how do we make energetic and cool ad out of this? So we start playing. So we know we have to bring this to life, and we know they have programming genres that need to connect into this logo. So we started drawing. So we started thinking about motorsports, and we started to think about a winner's circle, or when you win a race. So we took that same shape of the Velocity logo, the V, and we started to fill in new design elements into it. So we have the champagne for when they win the races, we have the grandstand lights, we have like the bed of roses and the wreaths. So we started playing with that. It was like, okay, now we literally took their brief, and we have their programming genre inside of their logo, although probably everyone else we're competing against is going to do the same type of structural idea. So how do we kind of take it further? How do we play in the mystery? How do we keep developing it? How do we take it further? So we started trying other things, all right? So for finding a car that's just like a beauty, a cherry car that fires up, all right, so maybe the logo could animate. So we'll pull a cloth off of it, and then we'll see it, and then that V logo will have like an engine in it, and it'll be alive. All right, that's cool, but it's kind of still a little bit static. What else can we do? So we started playing with rendering techniques. So how can we make it look really cool? So can we cut in close so you don't know you're seeing the logo and just start seeing like, the muscle of this logo, pull back and show it all fired up. So here's some of the renderings we created. So we like the look of it, but the idea was still a little blurry. We didn't have it figured out. 5 days to figure it out. What do? We keep playing. We don't panic. You just kind of keep trying. So we started playing, all right, for car auctions, how can we speak to that theme in a design that still looks like their logo? So we started to, we keep going here. How do we restoring cars, the paint kind of filling in. So then we're like, let's break out of that formula. We're stuck there. Like try something completely different. All right, so what if we take an old 1939 owner's manual, make it in 3D, and start to have it flip open, and all the pages are kind of ripping around. And then those all kind of rip apart, and that creates a logo. I was like, okay, so now we're starting to get somewhere. We're kind of breaking out of the initial idea we had. Started trying other things. Maybe we could have a track that starts spinning around. So this idea, we started to say, what if we don't, we have 6 seconds to do a logo animation. So what if we don't see the logo the whole time? What if it starts as something else and then animates into the logo? It was like, that's pretty cool, but visually, all these things, it's just kind of like the composition stays the same the whole time. There's not much kind of arc to the journey in it. We wanted to get some more kind of depth to it. So then we started playing with this idea. So this was kind of like just taking high-end looking wood grain, getting in, abstracting it out, and like flying around this world. It's like, okay, we're starting to get somewhere. Went back to drawing. So here's kind of where the formula and where the aha moment started to happen for us. What if we're inside of an engine in a car that's being worked on, and you're seeing all this stuff going on, pull back out and see that whole world was within the logo. And then we started liking that because then we could say this stuff is in the blood and guts and DNA of our brand as Velocity. So that started to work. So then, will it work for other genres? So we started to play with like classic cars and, discovering these moments. So then we got back into rendering. So how would it work for motorsports? So we had this kind of stylized environment, and this is all within 5 days we made this stuff. It was crazy. We're working all hours of the night. Or what if we just had this world where in the middle of a race, starts to pull back, and then you find that it was all on the backside of this V. And then there we go, now we can get to the logo. So that's when we really started to kind of land on the look, the feel, and more importantly, the big picture execution and thinking. So then, for the other genres, can it work? Will it work? So for consumer news, we're looking at new technology in cars. Like, how do we do that? So we built this kind of like in 3D, we built this high-end looking world with kind of glossy, reflective, and data. And then we start pulling back, and then we could kind of see the formula. So we knew the formula worked. We tested it through kind of like different themes and visual identities, and we sent it to the client. So for auctions, kind of more glossy and playing up the beauty of the car paint. So the client loved it, and they gave us the work. So in our process, the way that we work, we start with these design frames, and then we go into animatics. So let me show you some of that. So this is the first phase of animation. So we don't put any of the light and the render on it. We just start working with the timing, the camera angles, and the cut to make sure the client likes it. So here we have kind of the initial testing of how the engine can move, kind of stylized and abstracted, and then kind of right on the backside powering up the transition to the logo. So we played with that, and then we started to try it for other things. So here's another kind of animatic. So an abstraction of like a car, here's like carbon fiber coming together and a car being worked on, and then it builds together and the logo comes together. So we did like hundreds of these, like literally, I'll just show you a few. And we just kept testing. We're trying to figure out the right pacing, the right style, let the person be in the world, and then pull back out and land on the logo. And here's for kind of unveiling the cloth, finding details of classic cars, and pulling back. So the client was really happy with these. So then what we do is we go into rendering, compositing, and all the kind of final finishing. So let me show you how the final job turned out. So that was our final kind of product from that. Thank you. So like a long way from, we took it a long way just from this initial V, right? Like that was what we had to work with, and it was like, how do we imagine it? And the team at my studio did a great job on it. The people at Discovery were really happy with it. We went on to win some awards and a marketing thing with this. And it really embodies like our process. Let me show you another example. So Salesforce is a big kind of tech company, and they wanted to have a shoot for Instagram. So this was actually the very first ad that Instagram ever ran. So Facebook and Instagram called our studio and they said, hey, we have this idea that we want people floating around San Francisco as if they're kind of getting beamed up to this cloud conference for Salesforce.com. So we ran out to San Francisco and we started shooting. And this is what I love about my job, is that every client and every task is different. But at the end of the day, the process is still the same. It's just about getting curious about what they want and then playing and having fun and then executing. So here we have the raw plate that we shot. This was crazy because there was like buses zipping by. It was like crowded San Francisco. So we had the model standing on the ladder, right? But we need them floating, so we actually had them stand like every different which way, so we could have each arm and leg shot free from the ladder to then composite it all together. So we also needed a clean backplate to work with in the computer so we could combine this image. So here's just the raw environment. So we were looking at this and we were saying like, okay, visually, it's very busy with all these power lines and lines for the trolley cars in San Francisco and everything, right? So we have to kind of clean that up a little bit. Now, a competitor of Salesforce, their prime color is red, and so are the bus shelters in San Francisco. They're not going to like that color red. This billboard, it has nothing to do with the people paying the money for it, so we can't have that there. So then we take it and we clean up the whole environment. So we clone out all the power lines, we clean up everything, we change the color, we replace the ad with something they own, and then this is actually the art director for all of Salesforce. We snuck him in with an ice cream truck just as a little thing for the client. So then what we do is we cut out that guy on the ladder and we start stitching together his limbs, and we get a thing like this where it looks like he's floating. So this is kind of taking a bunch of photos, stitching it together, and then we kind of put the final treatment on it, the magazine floating and you know, his phone floating away. And that was one of the images, that was one of the first ads that ever aired in Instagram in their platform. So we did it for a bunch of different people. So here's kind of another guy zipping along with his briefcase floating in the air, and the final kind of composite of that. Yeah. And here's the lady just enjoying her day as she floats along to the Dreamforce conference. So, you know, all these projects start with a blank canvas. And just like if you're going to do like music, or if you're writing a play, or if you have a new dance number you're learning, whatever it is that you're into, it all starts with a blank canvas, right? So as a creator, as a creative person, you're making something out of nothing. You're literally saying like, there's nothing here, and now I made a pencil mark, and now there's something, right? So what I want you guys to understand is that like you can create something from nothing, not just in your creations, but in your life. That's, you know, coming from Ellsworth, Ohio, in the middle of a cornfield, to Beverly Hills, California, winning some Emmys. That was created from, you know, there was no clear path to get there, right? So what I want you guys to think about is the power of creativity. This was a campaign we did for Sons of Anarchy. I want to talk about a little bit about just kind of how to use creativity in your life. So one thing is sometimes, you know, to be creative and to share it with people, it takes like being vulnerable. Like it's easy to kind of be intimidated. Like, what if somebody else can draw better than me? Or what if they don't like my performance or what I do? And fear kind of goes hand in hand with creativity. So one thing is, never let your fear be larger than your creativity. Never let being afraid of not being good enough make you not try or make you have a bad attitude. Even if somebody else does it better, it doesn't matter where you start with things, but it matters that you keep playing and you keep dreaming, you keep believing in it. Creativity has the, you know, amazing power, right? Creativity can break down limitations. You can change what's possible. You can make something from nothing. You can shift somebody's perspective. And it's unbelievable. Well, all those things apply to your real life. It's not just when you go make a pretty picture. It's not just when you go make a song. You can use creativity in your own life to make your life amazing. So as you start learning about your creative voice, and as you learn about, you know, about who you are, you know, get confident in your ability to kind of pivot, adapt, reimagine, find new dreams, find new paths, and just kind of expand your thinking. Or, you know, if something unfair happens to you, or if something makes you sad or mad or angry, you can use creativity to see it in a different way. So the beauty of creativity and the beauty of being curious and inspired about life is that you're in control. You can make anything happen because you have the power to make, you know, something from nothing. Use that in your real life too. So, and then dreaming bigger dreams. Like, I think this is the biggest thing. Even when I was a Full Sail student, I didn't really imagine where I would go or what would happen fully. And I never imagined I'd be out like in LA with, you know, getting to work on the things that I work on. And it's easy to feel really kind of a lot of limitations based on like what's going on around you or what you think is possible. Well, I just want you guys to like really dream big dreams. take time to like sit there and get away from your friends, get away from your family, just have time alone and think about like, what do you want to do one day? Like, what gets you fired up? What inspires you? And to kind of listen and pay attention to those whispers, and to just kind of have some fun with it. So that's kind of, what I want to talk to you guys about. But I'd love to answer any questions and just kind of, chat back with you guys if there's anything you want to know or ask me about or, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think virtual reality is definitely a really hot sector right now. And augmented reality is really hot and big. But the world really doesn't fully understand how to monetize it yet. They don't know how to make money off of it yet, right? Video games is the clear kind of answer. We just did a big VR experience for Kit Kat, and you jump in, and there's a giant Kit Kat floating in front of you. And you pick up this toy gun, and you have all these different flavors. So you can pick up like raspberries and pop it on top, and you can blast the raspberries into this Kit Kat, and then Kit Kat will actually make the Kit Kat with the flavors you chose in virtual reality, and they'll mail it to you. So that was in Australia that we made that for, and it went in like all these this giant mall in Sydney. So, I think the thing with virtual reality that's amazing is like you can play, right now, like when you're in video games, that's actually like a real-time animation thing happening, so you can control it. In virtual reality, you can walk around in that, and you can do anything with it. So it's so new. There's going to be so much opportunity in VR, and definitely like with like coding. If you're creative and you understand coding, then you'll get a huge edge in that world. Yeah, we do 2D animation a lot. I mean, sometimes with like the cell things, cell animation, we'll basically hire specialists to come in and do character-driven things. A lot of our 2D animation is Adobe After Effects, so we'll kind of get in there for a lot of our 2D and typography and logo work, but we do a lot of that.
Nate, we have one more question here,
Yeah.
and then they have sessions to go off.
Great.
What's the best way to achieve your dreams?
The best way to achieve your dreams is, let's see, that's a great question. I mean, I think the best way to achieve your dreams is, one, to never give up on it. It takes time to achieve your dreams. And two, to keep getting fascinated and curious about it and keep figuring it out. The best way to kind of achieve the dream is to find multiple paths to get there. It's never just one road. It's like, I love music. There's 500 million different ways you can work with the music business, So I think it's about seeing all the paths to getting there and playing with it and never giving up.
Fabulous. We have the FAA got a certificate for you to take back all the way across the country. We appreciate you being here with us.
Thank you so much.
And you've opened up their minds and their curiosities to now go into their next sessions. Some of you came from all over Florida. How many were on a bus for more than an hour today?
Oh my God.
I need to give a shout out to you folks. Awesome. Thank you